Cleaning Flintlock locks for the Lyman Deerstalker, William Hovey Smith, 2015. I'm the author of Extreme Muzzle Loading and also cleaning and maintaining your muzzle load. This is Hovey Smith with Hovey's Outdoor Adventures. And what I want to go through today is the disassembly and cleaning of the Deerstalker locks. Now, this is the barrel of the Lyman Deerstalker 50 caliber carbine that I have been working with, and there are several previous videos about it. But now we want to get down to the nitty-gritty of actually disassembling and cleaning a lock. Externally, this is the original lock that comes with the rifle. As you can see, it is a Flintlock. This one is fully assembled. But this lock is a coil spring lock. And you can see the very prominent coil spring here. But the relative positions of the parts are the same. The lock that I've already disassembled here is an L&R replacement lock. They're so-called RLP locks. Now the lock plate on the outside looks somewhat similar, although this is of a more advanced design. It, for example, has a so-called waterproof pan. It also has a more advanced roller bearing here on the frizzen. On the underside of the lock is where the real differences are. Now here is the spring, and as you see, this is a leaf spring. Now this gun has been fired, and you'll notice here on the inside some discoloration caused by fouling, and this black powder fouling needs to be periodically removed. If I do a lot of shooting, I disassemble the lock completely to this stage and clean it after each shooting session. If I shoot only a shot or two, say during a hunt, I'll oftentimes wait for some weeks and then do it all at once if I fire only a few shots. On the outside, you can see obvious black powder fouling here on the lock plate, and you can see it being moved actually. It's so thick it's being picked up by the sharp tip of the screwdriver. And you also see discoloration here from the fouling around the pan and frizzen, as you would expect. And so we're going to move that. Now you can do what I have done before and shown you, is clean the lock intact. But here, since we have it disassembled, we're going to put it down in this little tub, plump, like this, as long with the smaller parts. Yay. Yay, yay, and of course the flint. And brush and clean these in session. We have all our little parts here that have been put in soapy water now and brushed off, and now we're going to put them in clean water here, and then we'll start to dry them. And actually wipe them down with a cloth, and that'll get the last of the residue. Spring, saddle, hammer screw, flint, jaw screw, one screw, and here we have again our little fly. That is by far the easiest part to lose, so plunk. We'll make sure it gets back in there. Alright, so might as well start with the biggest first. And this water is warm, by the way, not boiling hot, although it could be. The hotter this water is, the more heat imparted to the parts and the faster the drying process. Okay, this is a complex piece. So you want to remove as much water from it as you can. You can blot some of it off like I'm doing here. You can sort of sling it off. Work the parts back and forth and flop around. Now, if you're moving the thing rapidly like this, of course, if you have any smaller parts, like the small little bridle here, and I'll show you that cute little piece in a bit, it can fly off. So you want to watch and listen, and if you hear anything fall or go thunk, you want to find out what that part was. And you can see with my wiping now that the dark discoloration and stuff that was there is now all gone. So the wiping as well as the brushing helps remove any carbon or sulfur compounds or anything else that might happen to still be stuck. This little post right here is where the fly fits. So that is now superficially dry. And we do the same with all the other smaller parts. Now this part is the bridle. It's very delicate. It's caught by the spring itself and its connection between the tumbler and the spring. So this is a very important and little delicate part. Very easily lost, very easily bent, very easily deformed. If you try to put too much force on it while putting the spring in or straightening out the parts or anything like that. Of all locks, this is one of the parts that's most frequently damaged. That and the sear. The little fly here is the part that's most frequently lost. And this screw here is the one that actually holds on the hammer from the outside. Okay, we're going to dry these, lubricate them, and then we'll be back and put the lock together. We now have our lock plate back off the stove eye where we have heated it, where it is warm to the touch. And we're going to take a little bit of boar butter here and put it on the lock plate, and as you can see it melts, and allow it to run underneath all the parts here. This also helps get this material down in deep in the pores of the metal itself. And something like a thin knife blade like this, or a toothpick, or anything such can be used to apply it. You never want to get the lock plate too hot, or you will start affecting the temper of the steel, particularly on the frizzen. And then you put a little dab on the face of the frizzen, but actually not on the back where the flint will strike. You want to keep that as rough as you can get it. Okay, now that can be allowed to cool. We can lubricate the springs. This has some boar butter already on it. And the other parts. So now we'll start the reassembly. Now, the most significant thing from working with any flintlock or any other gun is to make sure you have a properly fitted screwdriver. You notice this head here has been ground to fit these particular screws. Yeah. So you don't want to use an ill-fitting screwdriver and bugger all your screws just to start off with. So the first thing we want to attach is this spring right here. Now this is the original coil spring lock for the Lyman series of flintlock guns, and percussion guns too for that matter. As you cock the hammer, you will notice this rod protrudes here. So what you need to do is take your vice grips or something like them and capture this. Then release the hammer by pulling up on the sear bar, and then that'll allow you to remove this spring and replace it as well. You remove the spring on the RPL locks by using your vice grips and applying tension on the spring about like this. Spring. But you don't want to apply too much or you can crack the spring. Okay. We've got the spring captured now. We can work it a little bit. See if we can get it out. Very near. There we go. So now we have the spring removed. You see the little stirrup here? It's critical that you don't bend this. This is a very delicate part. So you replace the spring in the same way. See little hooks right there. Catch those. All the way back in. And you've got to fit it, the little hole in the center of the lock plate. There we go. You heard it go in. Then release your vice grips. Okay. Then that'll allow everything to go back in place again. And you can test your lock, of course. Let's see if it works. Okay, stands at half cock. That's good. Another thing about springs is a sear spring. If the sear spring is too weak, it will not stand on half cock and full cock. If it's too strong, it won't work. I mean, you just can't pull back on it. So neither of which is good. So it has to be proper tension on this spring. This is a spring that has a lot of pressure on it, and well, oftentimes these springs fail. So this might be a replacement part that you might want to get. All right. On the other side of the lock, we have one more spring to do, and that is the spring for the frizzen here. So you try to index it roughly. See if you can get this screw started. There we go, just a little bit. You don't need to put tremendous pressure on it to start with, just a few turns in, just enough to hold it in place. Have it catch. We should need a little wiggle room here. Okay, that should be about right. Ease that in place. You should be able to tap the spring flush with the lock plate. There you go. Then turn your screw all the way down in. Okay. Then, yeah. Got that one done. Okay. Now we do the jaws for the flint. I'm going to put bevel down. This lock works best. Screw in, line up good, parallel as you possibly can by sight. Yeah. Okay. Tighten. Okay. Now, on leather, it's good to let it rest for about 10 seconds. And then go ahead and give it a second tighten down. Okay, so that's a good tight fit. So now you have a lock that's clean, lubricated, yeah, works, tested, and ready to install in your rifle. For now, this is Hovey Smith, reminding you to hunt what you eat and eat what you hunt. Be legal, be ethical, be safe. Goodbye, God bless, and see you next time.
Extreme Muzzleloading is available as a softcover and ebook. Now, in ebooks, I have Shooting and Maintaining Your Muzzleloader, Muzzleloaders for Hunters, Hunting with Muzzleloading Shotguns and Smoothbore Muskets, Hunting Big and Small Game with Muzzleloading Pistols, and a new series of business books in the Profit series, the first of which is Ideas for New Businesses, and here is a little blurb about that one. Now, I'm going to sell this particular gun in December, and if you'd like it, you can just contact me at the email address, and following is the address for Mr. Cox and his locks. For information on my books, blogs, and more than 425 videos, you can go to my website, www.hoveysmith.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.